Hello everyone. Since it's a Q&A, if you guys have any questions, you can put in the chat box and we can start with the answers as in when we're also waiting for people to join in. Hi, Sukhwinder. When we talk about woodworking, basically we're talking about carpenter. And yes, it's going to be eligible for Ontario skill trades and for the express entry category based draws as well. No, if we're talking about the carpenter job, it's not a regulated profession. Even if you're working without a Red Seal license or exam, your experience will be counted for both Ontario skill trades and for the express entry. Usually, when we talk about the Red Seal licenses, it's for the compulsory trades only, such as electricians, plumbers, mechanics. And as long as in these trades as well, as long as you are registered as an apprentice, your work experience counts. If we talk about ECEs, there's no direct pathway for permanent residency in terms of express entry yet. It is expected from the speculations that IRCC might add a new category next year for the express entry category based draws as education, in which they might add ECEs and ECE assistants. So it could possible next year, but then we cannot say for sure how much the CRS is going to be. It could be 400 and above, but let's see next year. In terms of the PNP options, yes, at this point, we can see international student stream. We can also target foreign worker stream as long as you're meeting the points for the expression of interest. So there's another question from Kiran, which says that if we receive official transcripts, we're still eligible to work or not. Um, so the general concept behind you stopping work after you complete your studies is as as soon as the college communicates to you that you have completed your studies and you've graduated. It could be through a completion letter, or they could send you your official transcripts. So as soon as you're communicated by the college that you've completed your studies, you are required to stop working until you apply for a post graduation work permit. So if you've received your official transcripts and not the completion letter, you still are required to stop working. How can I check the status of my application? It depends what kind of application status you want to check. Um, to be honest, at this point, if we talk about the PR tracker that they introduced recently, it's not working. Since July, it hasn't been updated. So unfortunately, you might just have to call IRCC customer service, but that's the only recourse at this point. So Mankirat asks, he submitted the express entry application. He wants to submit the express entry PR application, and spouse is non-accompanying. Do I still have to submit her PCC? Yes, absolutely yes. So for non-accompanying spouses, you're still required to submit their medical and PCCs. At this point, there is a medical exemption, so you don't have to provide it. Since October 2023, they've introduced a new regulation. But then after, sorry, in terms of PCC, yes, you are required to submit for the non-accompanying spouse. Printing press operator is good option for Ontario PNP or not? They have not been targeting printing press operators recently, but they're targeting the supervisors for this position. You might have to see the trend of who they're targeting at this point instead of just relying that it's a trade occupation. So let's say out of that 1 year period, you have 6 months as a printing press operator and you get a promotion of a supervisor. With additional 6 months experience, entire 1 year is trade with 6 months in the targeted occupation as supervisors are being targeted, you can qualify for the Ontario skill trades as well. So your prior experience could be used and you could still rely on the new one. It can help you get into the Ontario PNP's skill trades. Usually local office PCCs are not recommended for people who had a lot of addresses in their history. So if there were, like, let's say 1 or 2 addresses, yes, you can use it. Most of the cases they're accepting it, but if you have time, it's always recommended to apply for the BLS PCC. So Gurjeet asks, What's the scope of PSW in Canada? Which province or city is best? For the personal support workers, it depends what occupation we're talking about. Are we talking about the home childcare PSW occupations, or we're talking about the nurse aides? If you've been working in a long-term centers, it's mostly an occupation for the nurse aide, which is a tier three position. But if we talk about the home support workers, it's a tier four position for home support or home care. Now, depending on the occupation, if we talk about home support workers, tier four, it falls under the Ontario's occupation in demand category as well. So that could be an option. Apart from that, if we talk about the nurse aid, it is being targeted by Ontario's regular PNPs, such as Human Capital Priority Stream. You need a minimum bachelor's degree for that. Express entry category based selection for healthcare is also targeting the PSWs at this point. So, a very generic question: which provinces are open for PNPs in Canada? Right now, all the provinces are issuing PNPs, but it depends what sector they have paused. In terms of the Atlantic provinces, they have halted on food sector, accommodation sector, and they are not prioritizing other general occupations. Only priority occupations are being, pushed forward or getting responses on. So PNP is very selected in Prince Edward Island. They're not prioritizing non-priority sectors, so that's one thing. Um, if you have experience in trades, healthcare, mostly you'll get a provincial nomination in almost all the provinces. But it depends on your profile, what targets you have, what experience do you have, what's the relevancy of your profile to the province that you're applying to. Questions you might have, you can send them in your messages and we can respond. Birth certificate without name on it, what is the solution? You can make an affidavit, and usually it works because the parents' names and the date of birth is same, so they accept it. Which city is best from Ontario? Actually, currently I'm in Brampton and I'm planning to change the city. Where should I move? It's not about the city, it's about the job offer, how you're gonna be able to apply for provincial nomination or PR accordingly. So I would suggest you to focus on job first rather than choosing the city. But definitely, if it's outside GTA, it could help you apply for a better PNP or a PR option with the employer support specifically. Hi, Rajwinder, which pilot program are we talking about? Is RNIP still a good option for PNP or should I target OINP? So, in terms of RNIP, it is a good option. It's gonna restart in fall of 2024, so it's expected by September or October. Let's say by what time they reopen the program. As long as you have a valid job offer and the employer is supporting you, you have a valid job offer which is backed by the employer from the communities that are being a part of RNIP program. Then yes, RNIP is a good option, but you can always keep your options open in terms of having both the options. So let's say you're targeting RNIP, you could still be eligible under the Ontario PNP. So it doesn't have to be one out of the two. So the question is, does experience certificate from India should have roles and responsibilities section as per the NOC code? Yes, the NOC code that you're identifying for your permanent residence application, you need to make sure that you are. Uh, it doesn't have to be the same, but it should carry the same meaning. So if you are getting a employment confirmation letter from your employer from back home, make sure it's complying the job letter requirements so that IRCC accepts it, and you're able to prove your experience based on the duties of the NOC code. 3 years of self-employment and construction, can I apply for permanent residence? Where is the self-employment? That's the main question. If it's in Canada, there could be very, very limited options. But if it's outside Canada, then yes, we can definitely talk on that self-employment. Yes, Jasraj, we do process the applications after you get an invitation. To identify the knock codes, we need to make sure that we have the job duties in hand. Sometimes the occupations are very vague. We cannot say for sure what knock code corresponds to it just on the basis of the title. Can I work on submission letter of PGWP? If you are saying that can you work after the submission of your permanent of your post graduation work permit, then yes. After you apply for the post graduation work permit, you're gonna be on maintained status as long as you applied with a valid study permit at the time of the PGWP. So you can work. Hi, I got my postgraduate work permit 1 month ago and I don't have any job. Where should I mind PR and which job should I consider? Again, if we talk about permanent residency options at this point, it's always preferred to work in the sectors which are priority, healthcare, construction. That could help with easier permanent residency options. After the submission of permanent residence application, how long does it take to receive the biometric request? It depends what category you're applying under. The processing these days for express entry is within 6 months, so you should receive within 2 to 3 months. And for the non-express, it could take a long time. It could take about 6 months as well. It depends when the application is assigned to an officer and when the officer opens that application up. Yes, they're taking a lot of time for the applications where there is police or army background involved, even for parents, visitor, or super visas, or for the permanent residence applications. Unfortunately, even the federal courts don't help much with this, as long as the delay is on the basis of security. You have to wait. So, visitor visa trend is negative, yes, for sure. Even when the applications are getting approved, people are being sent back at the airport because of the immigration policies. To be honest, these days, they are trying to reduce the number of temporary resident applicants in Canada. So, if you have a visitor visa in hand and you don't have a very solid purpose of travel, it's not recommended to travel at this point. And that's a personal opinion again. As a nurse, you have multiple PR options. Um, in terms of express entry, you could apply under the category based selection. The provincial nominations are targeting. So it depends on your profile. You can definitely contact our office and we can run an assessment on your application. So there's a question on YouTube. Is it true that the tier 4 and 5 are eligible in any of PR stream? I've heard about warehouse associate are eligible for PR. Actually, I don't have proper information for this. So when we talk about warehouse associate, they're talking about material handlers. And for material handlers, yes, there's a PNP option, which is for occupation in demand outside GTA. As long as you have a job offer from an employer and the employer is eligible to provide you with the job offer, yes, there is a PR option, but not in all the streams. Just one occupation in demand in Ontario. Outside Ontario, there are again multiple options. The Atlantic provinces accept tier 4 positions for PGWP holders. For non PGWP holders, tier 5s are also eligible. It depends again on your profile, on what kind of PNP you want to apply and are going to be applying under. So the question is, I have two refusals, one in spouse open work permit and another one in visitor visa. My spouse is on study visa. What should I do? Should I have to wait or reapply visitor visa? If you think you don't have a solid profile for visitor visa, I do recommend you waiting for your spouse to finish their studies. And then once they are on a post graduation work permit, that's when you apply for the spousal open work permit under C41 or C47 LMI code. Um, Now, again, I don't know your profile. If you do not qualify for visitor visa at this point, you don't have the required funds, it's always recommended to stay put, wait for some time. Do not keep applying the applications blindly. It could result in unnecessary refusals. What is the timeline for skilled trades express entry? If it's a direct application you're doing under the express entry without PNP, usually we're receiving the responses within 4 to 6 months. What is the actual processing time for work permit in a spouse sponsored PR application? Um, Now, again, if you've submitted a permanent residence and you are talking about the open work permit after you submit a PR, we've received decisions within 3 months or so. I have done Diploma of Community Services from Australia. What are the options for PR? Um, One thing I would like to clear is Canada's immigration system rely on experience, not much on education. So unless you have certain amount of experience, at least 1 year to start with, and there is a specific program you could target on. That's when the immigration story starts. Before that, education only might not be able to apply under any of the programs. Hi, I'm done with my studies in December 2022, and my work permit is till 2026 June. And I'm working in daycare in Brampton. So, can you please tell me the PR options in Ontario? Again, for the RECEs, one option could be the provincial nomination for Ontario, international student stream category, or the foreign worker category. Out of these categories, if you're meeting the expression of interest points and the draws, you could be eligible for the draws for the PNP. Apart from that, as I mentioned before as well, there could be a prospective category based draws for RECEs next year. So you can probably rely on that as well. But then before that, I would recommend you to confirm with your employer whether they're able to give you a job offer or not. If they are, then we can assess your profile for the international student stream. Permanent residency pathways for parents, a question that we've been asked again and again. Um, to begin with, there's only one pathway if we talk about direct permanent residency. That has to be the parents and grandparents PR program. Now, you have to meet the income for that for the last 3 years. The sponsors have to meet the income. As long as they do and they submit the lottery, your parents are selected under that lottery, you could submit the permanent residence. A very far off option, to be honest, because applications that are in the pool are about like 1 lakh, 2 lakh, and only 20,000, 10,000, 30,000 applications are targeted each year. So the probability of you being selected could be low. Another alternate, I wouldn't say alternate for that option, because the approval rate is quite low. But for the humanitarian and compassionate grounds, if you have such, if you are able to prove that there are hardships faced by your parent if they leave Canada, you could choose this option. It's a time consuming, lengthy process, definitely. But if you think that there are factors that you can establish, 100% you can apply under the agency grounds. For the provincial nomination as RECE, how much experience do you need? If we talk about international student stream, you don't need any experience, but you want to meet the expression of interest points. And if you have 6 months with the job offer employer, you will get 3 points for that. That's one thing. If we talk about the foreign worker stream, you need 2 years of experience in the job offer occupation. But if it's a licensed occupation that you're working in and you have a license for that, you could apply without experience as well. Are there good chances of getting visitor visa of parents and brother on convocation? Yes, there are. You can submit their application. Let's say we're talking about a brother who is a minor. Yes, you can submit that his application or his application with the parent, but make sure you are submitting good proof of financials. Thank you, Ricky. Atlantic immigration pathway for international doctors with higher qualifications. Now, when we talk about Atlantic immigration pathway, you need a job offer. If you don't have a job offer, you will not qualify. But at this point, doctors are a profession which is being targeted through the Ontario's provincial nomination. Um, or you could see options for express entry as well, because if you are a physician self-employed, your experience does count. It falls under the exemption of self-employment experience. So we can definitely assess your profile if that's something you're interested in. Which province gives PNP easily? Actually, none at this point. Your profile has to be strong, otherwise there are very less chances. I came to Canada after my high school. I did 2 years diploma in computer system. Now I want will apply for work permit. Best way for PR. Um, Repeating again, your education solely might not get you any PR pathway at this point in Canada. If you did your 2 year diploma, I would recommend you to first target certain occupations which you can apply your jobs in, related to computer systems preferably, and then yes, we can talk about PR options then. A lot of people are working in the telecommunication sector. That's one of the targeted occupations under the Ontario PNP, like telecommunication repairers, technicians. So this occupation could be one of the options. Uh, I'm on visitor record. I'm planning to get married and apply for spousal open work permit. I haven't disclosed my intention of marriage in visitor record application. Will it cause any issue if I get married now? It depends on how you're going to portray your application. Now, in terms of getting married, you don't really have to disclose, but you cannot contradict any facts that you have disclosed before. So it's it depends how you submit the application. Should not Usually it should not be a problem. I am a personal support worker. I want to apply for a PR. How can I proceed with that? Um, for a personal support worker, if you're working under long term, or as a nurse aide, you have an option to apply for permanent residency in express entry category based selection, or you can choose the Ontario PNP if you have a bachelor's degree as well under the human capital priority stream. If your employer is supporting you, you can also choose international student stream, foreign worker stream, depending on how much experience you have. For the foreign worker stream, you need 2 years of experience in the occupation you're getting job offer in, unless it's an occupation which is licensed. I have it. I have done my studies in early childhood education. Recently, I live in Ontario right now. What are your suggestions and what are the good options for me? Is it British Columbia? It was British Columbia at one point, but at this point, the draws have gone quite up for BCPNPs, for the ECs as well. So the minimum you have to go and work in BC is 1 year before you could qualify for any provincial nomination. So that's there. But then, yes, BC is one of the options. Depends where you're getting a job offer from. AIP endorsement timelines depends from province to province, but usually it's 2 to 3 months. Has anyone from Army, Police got their visa recently? If yes, how much? Wait. Um, we had a visitor visa application recently, and it took about, I think, 15 to 16 months. But that was after MP's inquiry on that application. PNP occupation in demand Nova Scotia nomination timeline. They are taking about 4 to 6 months easily. Nova Scotia's PNP, they have a the processing time, it's quite huge. Can I apply on 30 hours position approved by BCPNP in healthcare? Um, as long as you're working 30 hours, they have to give you a permanent full-time position. It's not just about hours in PNP, it's also about permanent full-time position. It cannot be a temporary position. So as long as that's there and in the program you're applying under, you should be okay. If we are coming to Canada on visitor visa, we have to buy one-way ticket or round trip. It depends on the relationship and then what kind of application or what kind of person is coming in, but then it's always recommended to have a round trip. After MPs, so you can contact your local MP as per your area code and ask them to inquire about the status of your application and ask the IRCC about the undue delays. They could maybe help you with a faster processing on that one. They can push, but again, when there's security concerns or when there's security background check that needs to be done, usually nobody can do anything in such cases. I had my last class on 11th August and I have unofficial transcript that I've passed, but I don't have official transcript. I'm unsure if I can work on SIN now or I have to wait until applied status. In this scenario, I would recommend to rely on the completion letter date. If you've received a completion letter, you have to rely on that date. If you've received it and you've applied for post graduation work permit, that's when you can start working again. Even if your SIN expires and you are still eligible to work under the same conditions on the maintained status. Which program in Nova Scotia is better, AIP or PNP occupation in demand? It depends on the job offer. If your employer is designated under the AIP program, then of course AIP is better because the processing time is much faster. But for the provincial nominations, it's pretty backlogged at this point. Should I have to apply for visitor visa on wife's convocation while having refusal in visitor visa, and can't I apply for spousal open work permit because she will continue her studies? Um, Again, my friend, you can try the visitor visa application, but as long as you have good financials, proper purpose of visit, reasons of return, visitor visa could work for you. Is there PR pathway in bakery courses in Canada? Um, no. Which one is best province at this moment from Ontario, New Brunswick, BC, Nova Scotia? It depends what kind of job offer or the experience you have. That's how we choose which province is best for you. I have 2 years experience and from next month I'm planning to join job in skilled trade stream. So after 6 months, am I eligible for skilled trade category express entry draw? Yes. For the express entry, you need minimum 6 months in the occupation that are in the list. As long as you do that, you could qualify for the express entry category based trade draws. If I go in trucking with corporation, will the experience count towards permanent residency? Any Canadian experience for self employment does not give you points under the Canadian experience class category or the FSW. The Canadian self employed experience doesn't give you any points. Specifically, in terms of express entry category based selection for the transport occupations, even if your experience, self employed experience, is in Canada, you put that experience in the profile. It won't give you points, but it will still qualify you for the category based selection. Now, the minimum requirement to create the express entry profile would be 1 year of experience, be it in Canada or outside Canada, depending on the category you're applying under, Canadian Experience Class or Federal Skilled Worker Program. Um, you meet the minimum requirement and you add that experience, you could qualify for the transport occupations draw. My agency is charging 2 lakhs for Canada Express entry. Is it expensive, or is it's okay? Sorry, I can't comment on that. I don't know how they got to that charges. Mm, my friend, he came as a visitor, now planning to put a refugee case. Is it okay to do that? As I heard, if we have to apply refugee, we have to do it right away at port of entry. Um, no, it's not always necessary to apply at the port of entry. Even if you are applying for the refugee while you're in Canada, you can do it. But of course, once you are at the hearing stage, the member will ask you questions of why you didn't apply at the port of entry, and you can say that you wanted representation for the case, so you waited and then you applied at inside Canada at the IRCC office. It's absolutely okay, as long as undue time hasn't passed. You're not applying, let's say, 2 years you've been in Canada and you haven't applied, and you applied once you were going out of status, or you did not have proper documentations to stay. So that's when questions arise. As long as you're well within that definition, you should be okay. I have 6 month job letter experience as an ECE. So I want to ask that, is this experience added when applied for PR application or not? You do not have you do not require continuous experience in the Canadian experience class category. Even if you have non-continuous experience with different employers with gaps, you still qualify for the Canadian experience class category. So yes, if you have 6 months with one employer, and then let's say there's a gap for 4 months in between, and you then start the job again, uh, as long as that experience falls within the last 3 years, you're going to qualify for the Canadian experience class. Otherwise, you might also qualify for this federal skilled worker category. I am on work permit as a caregiver on LMI. My spouse is not getting a spousal open work permit. We're struggling to get him a status. He had a work permit as a superintendent, but his last work permit was a refusal. Um, I am not sure if I understand your question, but generally, if you are on a caregiver LMI, as long as um, you're on a high wage, you can sponsor your spouse. Otherwise, you cannot. You're not eligible for spousal open work permit. In terms of LMI, only tier 0, 1, 2, 3 categories with high wage or low wage are eligible. But tier 4, 5 categories, only high wage are eligible for spousal open work permit. For security reasons, we can only wait. Is there a limit on the processing time, or it can take as long as they want? It can take as long as they want. That's unfortunate, but that's the only case. Irrespective, let's say 2.5 years have passed and you're still waiting. Maybe you can reach out to an immigration lawyer who can help you with the judicial review application. Um, no, sorry, not judicial review, a mandamus application. Basically, you're waiting for undue time, and they could probably help you better in understanding what your options could be at that point. Again, a writ application is what you have to do, writ of mandamus. How to prove cash paid salary for foreign work experience. You can ask your employer to give you a salary certificate. So basically, again, a letter saying that it's a salary certificate. It can detail what you were being paid, how you were being paid. It could be for per month, or it could be for the entire experience altogether. My question is that when foreign skilled PNP draw possible for truck driver in Ontario, um, depends on the category. At this point, Ontario is targeting certain occupations in all the categories. So you need to see the recent trends, and that's when you decide whether that certain PNP category is a good option for you or not. I want to work as a RN in Canada, so should I start my NNAS registration first or PR application first? Um, I would say maybe start both the things simultaneously. Start with NNAS registration. If you don't have a bachelor's degree and you're registered with CNO, specifically I'm talking about again Ontario PNP, you could still qualify for the provincial nomination. That's the exemption they've given for the nurses. Is Nova Scotia AIP and PNP occupation in demand process slowed down? I've applied for endorsement and provisional nomination Nova Scotia. I do have a valid job offer and continuing care assessment. Usually, you're not able to do it in both the applications together. You have to do one. So if you have submitted an application, the another one might not accept you. Is LMI still possible with all the restrictions coming soon? There might be some restrictions on low wage categories, which with the occupations that are not priority. We've seen a halt on the low wage LMIs for Montreal region. So it is possible that the crowded regions, the regions they know people are there to work, they might not accept new applications in low wage category. High wage, I think it's still going to be accepted altogether in all the areas. That's my, again, personal recommendation. It could or it could not. Other healthcare assistant, does person qualify for work as someone who assists in tools in cardiac clinic? It depends on your occupation duties, but healthcare assistants are at this point under the express entry category based selections. Is home caregiver program opening soon? We only had announced from IRCC, but no official launch. Yes, there's no official launch. Right now, for this caregiver program, they've given some instructions. One is you need to have a job offer from Canadian employer. Minimum education is grade 12. If you have that, get your vest done for that in the meanwhile. Minimum language is CLB 4, and you have to have relevant experience and education in this field. It is relevant education or experience. So if you want to prepare your application, you keep that prepared, because it's very likely that they will announce it soon, and it should be again January 1st should be the date that they're going to accept for the next year. Again, a speculation. We're still waiting to hear from IRCC on that. Why visitor visas are hold. Um, the applications are getting processed for sure, but the decisions usually are not favorable these days unless you have a valid reason and good financials. So it's not as easy as it was happening in 2020, 2020, 21, 22. So things are changing again. What kind of necessary documents for outland spousal sponsorship as principal applicant? Um, You need to get your police clearance done. You need to get your IDs, passport, your identification, your birth certificate is mandatory. If it's not in English or French, you have to get that translated. Your relationship documents, marriage certificate from both, actually, from your religious place and from your registration. So both. Um, your chat history could go in, your social proof that you have a public relationship. So a lot of documents which proves a genuine relationship. What is the success ratio for flagpole as a visitor to work permit? I personally do not recommend that if you're not confident enough to prove your case. If you're overconfident, I still do not recommend it. Does VES evaluate grade 12? Yes, they do. You're going to need that VES for grade 12 for the home child care program. Um, and depends on what category you want to apply under. If you have 3 years experience of UK in healthcare field, can I get PR in Canada? Um, it depends on your education, highest education, what category you're going to apply under. But then yes, we can evaluate your profile if you're going to qualify. See, there are two things. Either you qualify, but you also have to meet the draws. So you could meet the minimum eligibility, but minimum eligibility will not get you permanent residency. You have to meet the current draws. So that's where the profile assessment comes in. BCPNP Health Authority will continue in 2025. Less likely, given the rush in this certain category. A lot of applications are being held off. They might start just targeting the health related occupations in this category. It is, again, it's speculation, or it's uh, what we see in the trends these days, but let's see, let's wait for the news for them. If you have two work permits valid, open work permit and closed work permit, are we eligible to do two jobs? Yes. For OINP skill trades draw, need 6 month experience or 1 year experience, submit expression of interest. You need 1 year of skill trades experience. Out of that, it could be in multiple NOC codes, but still skill trades, and a minimum 6 months in the occupation you are targeting, the primary code. So minimum 6 months in the primary code to qualify for the draw. But 1 full year has to be skill trade for the Ontario skill trade PNP. So mostly last minute questions because we're gonna end by 1 o'clock. If you have any more questions, you send them over and then I'll be able to answer them. Thank you. This won't affect PNP program. Which one are we talking about? Not sure. I know it shouldn't. So if you have a valid work permit, be it open or closed, you're okay. You meet the conditions of that permit. If the open work permit expires and you only have closed by that time, then you have to just comply with the valid permits conditions. My friend, he got a bonded work permit. He's driving truck in Edmonton. What are the requirements for him to get PR? Um, it depends on his profile, but he can apply under the Alberta's opportunity stream. He could qualify with the employer's job offer. And since it's a bonded work permit, that means LMI based job offer is already there. Suppose if I want to ask some more questions, do I have to book a consultation? How is the charges? Yes, there are consultation charges for one-on-one consultations. If you want, you can go on our Instagram bio and book an appointment with the link. For phone consultations, we charge a $30 for 15 minutes. Can we change the visitor visa into healthcare visa? Yes, based on LMI. Perfect. Thank you so much, everybody. So, hopefully, I was able to cover all the questions that you guys asked. And so, usually, we're trying to do this every alternate Saturdays, and we're going to keep you posted. If you want, you can get reminders for these sessions so that you can join us as soon as we start them. Perfect. Thank you. Bye.